honestly just a matter of getting discovered in a way that isn't What? I thought you quit.
Hello everyone and welcome to January 26, 2022, the Oshur update. I am of course Dubnus, and I'm going to be going over the patch notes and kind of giving my opinion on on it and kind of what I think. Before I begin, it's really important I mention this. Disclaimer. Um, I was part of the closed testing for Oshur, as I have been for previous updates as well, and obviously myself and my affiliates, um, we provided feedback. Some of it's been actioned upon, some of it not, and I think what we have to bear in mind is when we look at Oshur, we have to also look at Esamir and the game design and the direction that the devs want to go in. And so, because of this, if you're skeptical of Esamir and you're skeptical, you didn't like Esamir, and because of that, you're probably skeptical of Oshur. It is what it is. This is the direction the devs are going to go in. For me personally, I think Oshur still has a lot of potential, and that a lot of perhaps the weaker points of Oshur can be fixed in the future. Do I think that Oshur is good for the game? Yes. Do I think it's a step in the right direction? Yes. Do I think that direction agrees with my own play style? No. But I'm sure for the majority of the player base, Oshur is going to be better for them than it would be, say, for me. Because obviously I lead two point and hold outfits, and Oshur is not going to be a continent really for point holding. As the pretty much the first thing says, something for everyone, right? Oshur was designed with an emphasis on logistics and diversity of gameplay. By the way, I haven't read these notes yet. This is literally my first impressions. So, fine, logistics, okay. I didn't play PlanetSide 1. I've done my research, however, and one of the things people liked about PlanetSide 1 was this kind of logistics with the air support, right? And air, basically with air you couldn't just run away, right? You did have to stand and fight. Now, the quick responses is interesting. I'll get into that when we talk about redeploy side later. The Lattice has deliberate and strategic cutoffs for squad and platoon leaders. Beachheads and midfield bases carve a meaningful role for construction, or at least attempt to. The savannas and beaches and jungle allow for more armor, and the handcrafted designer bases, of which some of the unique bases, by the way, are really good. Big fan of them. Obviously, the new facility, the Trident. I really want to see how it plays on live before I think you can really give an opinion on that. It might just end up being, unfortunately, another containment site. Good in concept, maybe not great in execution. So we'll see. So I agree that Oshur does have something for everyone. But I think it definitely benefits, as PlanetSide 2 has kind of always benefited, whoever can out force multiply or cheese the opposition. And I think that's a core part of PlanetSide, actually. So I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Indeed, when I'm min-maxing things, right, for the best effectiveness, look, I don't like to fight against them. I don't even like to use them, but air to ground, cobalt bosses, etc., etc. They have a part to play, and indeed, so does construction. Whether or not construction will be as important, we'll see. Because here's the thing, right? If we're going to write out the domains before this update, it always goes air, infantry, vehicles, construction. That's how the domains work. I don't think that will change with the with Oshur. I really don't. So the Exodus flotilla. Let's read what this says. There's no warp gates, indeed. So I'm not sure if there's, I think you can still damage friendlies in these, basically the ships, but which might be rather annoying for some people, especially if it gets abused. We'll see. We'll see how it goes, because basically the warp gate, they needed that kind of no pain field, except no friendly fire in the warp gate to stop trolling, basically. Back in the day. So we'll see how that goes. Now the water mechanics. Okay, cool. The wheeled vehicles will float along the surface. Sorry, pass it along the surface. Hover vehicles will float above water. Air vehicles will cruise beneath the waves like submarines. Infantry and treaded vehicles prowl the ocean floor, and projectiles that enter the water hit with heavy drag. Basically, in all the other continents, we'll have these new water mechanics at a later date. Okay, cool. The water mechanics are fine. I don't think it really matters. I kind of just at least for me, I won't be worried about underwater combat too much because there's no underwater base. So yeah, you can do your Saving Private Ryan D-Day kind of scenes on the beachheads, but apart from that, I don't really see much use in it. Now actually, this reminds me, before I go on, I forgot to say this at the start. I love how Oshur looks. I love it. I love how it looks. It's like something out of, I don't know, name a kind of a more cinematic game. I don't know, New Worlds or New Man's Sky, whatever that game is, right? I don't play that nonsense, but it looks good, and from what I saw of that game and that trailer for that game, it looks it's kind of similar, and I like that. Now the new facilities, the interlink outpost, right? I haven't got a problem with these. It's an interesting design. We'll see how it plays on live. Same with the Trident Relay. I appreciate, to be honest, the new facilities. Let's be honest, some of the old facilities, 1-point amp stations, not naming any names, are kind of annoying. So hopefully these will be a bit of fresh air, or at least break the stagnant air. Distant Shores Chapter 2, so the campaign is returning, which is good. Good stuff. No problems with that. New directive. Sorry. There's going to be lost dog tags of those who die during the evacuation. Sorry. They're just kind of a little thing there to, I suppose add a bit of roleplay or something into the game. Again, not really my cup of tea. Will I end up doing it? Yeah, probably. But still, that will appeal. Again, something for everyone. That will appeal to, whether it's 10% or 20% or, or higher, or percentage of the player base. It will still appeal to people, which is good. And it doesn't affect other people's gameplay, unlike, say, the SMS Storm, right? So I like that, yeah. In the strategic tab, a new directive line dedicated to the war for Oshur has been added. You can unlock one of the underwater weapons and the Paradise Camo. That's going to be difficult to get. I don't normally grind camos, but I might for that one. Again, good to see the directives being used. Yeah, very important that that they are utilised, because otherwise, they might not they might just fall a bit to the wayside a little bit, which would be a shame, because I think the concept of directives, provides a bit of structure and well, a bit of direction. Oshur auto unlock dates. Okay, so this I don't think I'll get in trouble for saying. I think this comes actually directly from the feedback, which I and others also, others also agreed with me on this point, which was, hey, Oshur might end up being Hosin 2.0. Now, what did I mean about Hosin 2.0? As I explained it to the closed group and also to the devs, I said, when Hosin first released, people kind of didn't really like to play on it because it was something new, didn't really want to learn it, didn't want to adjust, right? And that's why, for the longest time, we always just saw outfits and people and whatnot just go to Indar and Esamir because it's what they already knew. That's kind of changed recently with the Esamir changes, but again, we still see that that pattern from time to time. So to combat that, and this was a good idea, a good solution that the devs have thought up, I think at least, is to basically make sure Oshur will unlock itself during the right times of the day, so that people can actually go and play on it. And as far as I understand it, because people are going to be playing on the continent, they will actually have the opportunity to learn the continent. And if people understand it, and if people understand things just in general, they're more likely to like them. So I think that is a positive thing. I know there's been a little bit of pushback against it, being like, oh, great, they really want us to have to play this continent. And indeed, if you don't like the continent, myself included, I might not like how the continent plays on live. That's fair. But hey, listen, look at the schedule, right? From Wednesday to Sunday, even someone like me can put up, with Oshur being unlocked for that long, right? So if I can put up with it, then all the whiny people on Reddit, they could put up with it as well, okay? The general changes, okay. Friendly fire damage is now reduced by 50%, okay. Against non-squad and non-platoon members. That's interesting, right? Specifically the non-squad, non-platoon members. So that's probably to reduce the impact of this change in point hold situations. That's really the only time I think that would matter. Again, we're going to be getting into kind of the discussion, I suppose, about point holding and its prevalence. And I think, to be honest, I will actually do a more specific video on that, which will be hours and hours long. And whether or not, that's the right direction, we'll see. For now, TLDR, interesting. Let's see how it plays out. Grief from friendly fire now decays 50% faster. Fine. Okay. Cool. I don't have a problem with that. We've stepped away from the spawn priority system from 2019 as it provided too much freedom. And now they've opted for something closer to 2018, which will allow slightly more movement around the map, reduce the speed of redeploy meta, and ideally emphasize vehicles' power to transport players. Additionally, squad beacons no longer have increased delays, which, on top of increased access to spawn beacons over the years, is a pretty considerable boon to coordinated squad play. That's interesting, isn't it? So, they say, should help reduce the speed of the redeploy meta. but then squad beacons no longer have increased delays. So, if you're like me and you lead a point hold outfit, obviously for those who don't know, co-lead of both B-Way on Emerald and Bork on Cobalt, so Pursued Away and Broken Arrow Company. For the longest time, we've just been using ESF beacons, to be honest with you. Sometimes we'd use ESF routers as well, but ESF beacons have been the way to go. So, will that reduce the speed of redeploy meta? Maybe, because maybe you can't quick pull galaxies from places, or you can't just spawn directly on a base, which is getting zerged. Yeah, I'm not sold on the idea of reducing the speed of the redeploy meta. I think you can reduce it. Is it going to work? These changes? I'm not sold on it, and I'm definitely not sold on vehicles being given more power. Are vehicles easier to work and to learn than aircraft? Yes, 100%. Sure. Totally agree. Right? But the way at least most of the continents work, not Essamir, not Oshur, but and to an extent, I guess, not Indar, right? But Amrish and Hossin, right? They're still kind of safe havens for infantry players. So maybe we'll see those continents changing next. I don't know, but I think at least on Essamir and Oshur, we'll see vehicles continue to increase it, I guess, in importance. Is that the right way? Is that the right direction? Again, not sure. But at least it seems like there is a direction, and it seems to be a coherent direction. Regardless of the squad beacon change, because at the end of the day, beacons are pretty weak. So we'll see. Now construction changes. Okay. I'm glad that basically construction has got a buff in every way, which is great. Haven't got a problem with that. All these changes here, the harvesting and construction, no issues with. Good. I like it. Makes sense. None of that is, game breaking or anything. It's a good idea, in my opinion. Routing spires. Okay. There's going to be lots to talk about these, and so it's only right, I suppose, I address them. Especially, again, point hold outfit leader, right? So should probably talk about routing spires and routers, right? Routers can now only be deployed within 500 meters of the routing spire. If the routing spire runs out of Cortium or is destroyed, the router that was placed will also be destroyed. So that second bullet point, don't have a problem with. Routers have been a massive discussion point on the test, on the closed test. It wasn't even supposed to be part of our remit or our mandate, which I pointed out a few times, but certain individuals kept bringing it up because, quite fairly, I think, actually, with hindsight, because it's relevant to OSHA, right? Routers are really relevant to OSHA. You want vehicles to matter? Then hey, remove routers, because guess what? You can have a router is a spawn point within a building. And I think that's why we see the change to the squad beacon, right? Because that's outside, whilst the router is inside. And is much more difficult to kill, I think, for especially the lone wolf, right, who doesn't have a lot of knowledge. Now, granted, there are some pretty easy ways to kill routers. Orbital strikes being easiest. Going after the bases, yeah. using an infiltrator, or even using an ambusher light assault, right? Throw a flashbang into the room or wherever the router is, ambusher up. Ambushers are pretty laggy, as they've always kind of been in certain pop. I mean, just in general, right? So chances of you dying before you can kill the router are pretty slim if you do it right, especially if you use a flash nade. So I don't think routers were as broken, I think, as people say. I think they just lacked the understanding of how to counter them, because they don't understand necessarily how to break point holds, which routers were being used and abused in. And again, that is a pretty big claim that I've just made, and I will probably have to make another video about point holding and routers and the direction of the game as well, in regards to those two things. However, when I say that, I'm definitely not talking about everyone. Some of the people who were seriously against routers, they understand the game pretty well. They have different perspective and different opinions on the game. And they're going to be very happy when they see this change. As someone who should be annoyed about this change, I'm not. I think it's a step in the right direction, but it's a step in the wrong direction. It's a step in the right direction, but it was executed poorly. I think it should be a kilometer within a kilometer of the routing spire, because especially on the big continents, Amrish, Indar, Hosin, right? 500 meters isn't very far. So listen, maybe they want more aggressive construction bases if you want to use a router. Okay, that's fine. But if what we could see are just people running skeleton bases for routing spires every 500 meters, that would be awful. And outfits like SKL certainly could do that, right? And those were the smaller outfits. Could they do it? Maybe not. Could one TR, for example, spam a router base every 500 meters? Yeah, they probably could, but would they bother? Probably not. So I think it's a good change, but I think the distance needs to be adjusted. TLDR, right? It's a good change. Distance should be within a kilometer, and I think that would be fine. We'll see how it plays out, of course. I do like the change, because routers are a bit bullshit, right? Good thing they're not in lane smash, I'll tell you that. Construction bundles. Okay, moving on. Many of the construction items available for purchase in discounted bundles. Cool. The Banshee has been nerfed. I don't think this is a massive nerf. I think it will stop people from moaning a little bit, which is good. I don't really care either way. Yeah. The barrier armor has been increased. Good. And the cloak has been removed. So the dev note here is, while the cloak was useful for transporting Courtium from point to point, it was needlessly powerful in the realm of farming infantry, where the majority of its usage took place. I know some people are upset about the cloak being removed. I, for one, am not. I agree with the dev note here. It was needlessly powerful in the realm of farming infantry. However, if the devs want more vehicles, right, to protect the infantry and to protect logistics, then making people pull MBTs to counter cloak ants farming your infantry and farming your logistics might make sense. Do I think the game has that kind of level of coordination just randomly? Maybe at some times, but probably not. So overall, a good change. Cobalt has been changed. It's been nerfed. Again, fine with that. No issues there. The Lodestar has been reduced in nanites. Fine with me. And now has a shield of 2.5k health. That might be a little bit too many. We'll see. A little bit too much. We'll see. The Wasp prototype core team cost from 400 to 300, and nanite cost reduced. Okay, cool. And now the Amaterasu. An experimental change meant to make the trade-offs more even. 15 meters. I wonder why there's not a damage drop off instead, right? So like it does the max damage up to 15 meters, and then every 5 meters it drops off, let's say, until it reaches 0 damage, right? I don't know. I wonder why they went for just a straight cutoff. Okay, cool. ISO 4 currency now shows in the depot screen. All vehicles will have a small red dot. I know a lot of people were very happy about that. I am one of them. When you right click on a player's name, remove friends is now located above ignore instead of just below send message. Okay, good. That's good for people like me who can't click properly. And this new HUD, this compass thing. I'm hoping it can be disabled, and indeed it can be. That's really good for when I'm driving a vehicle. Not so good for when I'm playing infantry, because I teach everyone in my outfits what the callouts are. Because callouts are more effective than a compass, but hey, not everyone is the same. And certainly for vehicle players, I think it's a great addition. Right, we've got more to go. Okay, cool. Spawn on an incline. Good. No more lean bug. Router Sunderers and Lodestars can't be deployed at Warp Gate. Good. Prototype vehicles now count towards. Okay, good. All of this just seems like housekeeping. You can no longer earn mining drill mission credit from enemies. That is so annoying. I hope there's not a mining drill mission in the campaign, because that would be awful. I'd never complete it. I'd have to get a squad going or something. Hacked vehicle terminals no longer prevent remote vehicles spawning. This is a temporary fix, however, for friendly vehicle terminals. Okay, interesting. That seems like that would affect things. Okay, cool. Looking forward. On some early days gameplay, indeed, I agree. Okay. So my overall thoughts on this, my TLDR is that I am excited for Oshur. It looks like a good content. Will it play out well? Maybe not for me, but I'm hoping it will for the majority of the player base. Will it bring players back to the game? Yes. Will those players stay? Perhaps a larger percentage than what we've seen in recent years. Will the population boost be the same as escalation? Not sure. Are the router changes good? Yes. Do they go a little bit too far? Maybe. Are the spawn beacon changes good? Yes. Are the attempts to make vehicles more relevant good? Maybe. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Overall, I think a positive update. And I think, all credit to the devs, right? for pulling this off, because a whole new continent is no joke. I mean, look at how Hossin turned out with the construction sites, which are still in the game, right? Okay, yeah, some people, myself included, like the construction sites. Some people use it as a constant reminder of going, yeah, but they never finished Hossin, so why are they releasing Oshur? And those people often don't know what they're talking about. I have been your host, Dubnus. This has been a Dubnus drubbing, and honestly, hopefully, I really hope this is going to work. Stay safe and all the other nonsense and whatever.